Air is something strange to lie awake thinking about. There is a book that your Bible quotes, names even, points to by name as true, and that same Bible does not contain it. It was left out, taken out. A scripture that the earliest believers read and copied and treasured, and then, somewhere along the long road of centuries, quietly removed until it vanished so completely from the world that for more than 1,000 years, most of humanity did not know it had ever existed at all. It is called the Book of Enoch, and tonight, slowly, gently in the dark, we are going to open it. But first, welcome back. If you have drifted off with me before, then hello again, and thank you truly for returning to this quiet place. And if this is your first night here, then settle in. You have found exactly the right corner of the dark. If these long journeys are becoming a part of how you fall asleep, it would mean a great deal to me if you tap subscribe and left one comment before your eyes grow heavy, where you are, what hour it is, what you are drinking tonight. I read them all in the mornings. They are the best part of what I do. Now dim whatever light is still burning. Let the room go soft and deep, because this is a strange book we are opening tonight and a strange man who wrote it, and I want you comfortable before we begin. Let me tell you honestly what this is, the way I always do. The Book of Enoch is real. It exists. You can hold a copy in your hands. It is ancient, older in parts than much of the Bible you know, old enough that fragments of it were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, sealed in clay jars in desert caves for 2,000 years. What it describes, angels and giants and the secret architecture of the heavens, I make no claim about tonight. I only want to walk you slowly through what it says and what happened to it, and let you decide in the drifting space between waking and sleep what you make of it. Because there are 3 questions in this book, and we are going to move through them like 3 deep rooms, one opening into the next. The first is simply, what does it say? What is actually written in this scripture that so many hands worked so hard to bury? And it says extraordinary things, things about the beginning of the world that you were never taught. The second is, why was it removed? Because it was not lost by accident. It was quoted by name in the New Testament. It was honored by the earliest church. And then deliberately it was set outside the walls and let fall into the dark. Why? What did it contain that made it safe or forgotten? And the third, the deepest room, the one we will not reach until you are already halfway into sleep, is the one no one can answer. What if it is true? Not all of it, perhaps none of it. But what if even a single thread of this old, buried, forbidden book reaches back and touches something that really happened in the deep dark of the beginning? We will not solve it tonight. That is not what we are here for. We are here to open an old and forbidden book in the safety of the dark and read it together slowly until sleep takes you somewhere in its pages. So take a slow breath in and let it out longer than you drew it. And let us go back past every empire, past the pyramids, past the first cities, to the very edge of the world's memory, where a man once walked so close to heaven that one day heaven simply kept him. His name was Enoch. Let us begin with him. Long ago, in the first generations of the world, when men still lived for centuries and the earth was young and half wild, there was a man named Enoch. You will find him if you look. In the oldest pages of the Bible you already know, a single strange line, easy to miss, tucked into a long list of fathers and sons. It says that Enoch walked with God, and then it says something it says of no one else in all those generations. It does not say that Enoch died. It says that he was not, for God took him. Sit with how strange that is. Every other name in that ancient list ends the same way: he lived, and he had sons, and he died. Lived and died. Lived and died. The steady, heavy drumbeat of mortality, name after name after name. And then in the middle of it, one man who does not die. One man who simply walks so closely with the divine that one day he crosses over, still living, and is gone. He was not, for God took him. The Bible, you know, says no more than that. It closes the door there on that mystery and moves on. But the Book of Enoch, the buried book, the one we are opening tonight, the Book of Enoch is what is said to lie behind that door. It claims to be the record of what Enoch saw in all the years he walked with God, and in the journey he was taken on up out of the world of men and into places no living person was ever meant to see. Imagine him for a moment, not as a figure in a stained glass window, remote and golden, but as a man who walked out under these same stars in the cool of the evening, in a world so young the ground itself still seemed to be listening. A man to whom, the story says, the messengers of heaven began to speak quietly at first, and then not quietly at all until he was carrying between heaven and earth a message so heavy and so terrible that it would outlast his whole vanished world. That is who we are following tonight, the man who did not die, the man who was taken. And to understand what he was taken to see, we have to go back with him to the thing that had gone wrong in the world, the thing the book opens with, the thing that set the heavens themselves against the earth. We have to go back to the night the watchers came down. Let your breathing slow and come back with him to the beginning of the trouble. The book calls them the watchers. They were, it says, a high order of the angels of heaven, beings of the upper world, luminous and ancient, whose task, whose very name was to watch, to observe the young earth and its people from above, and to guard and to keep and never to interfere. That was the law of their being. They were watchers. They were not meant to touch, and for a long age they kept the law. They looked down from their high places on the world of men, on the small fires burning in the dark, on the fields and the flocks, on the daughters of men walking in the young world below, and they only watched as they were made to do. But watching, the book says, became wanting, slowly, the way it so often does. They looked down on the beauty of the world below, and on the human women who moved through it, and something stirred in them that a watcher was never meant to feel desire and longing, and at last a kind of hunger that simply looking could no longer satisfy. There were 200 of them who felt it, 200 of that high order who began to speak among themselves in the spaces above the world, and to say a forbidden thing to one another, that they would go down, that they would leave their proper place and their proper nature and descend into the world of men and take for themselves the daughters of the earth. 200. Picture them, if you can, gathered in the high cold air above the mountains of the young world, luminous and uneasy, on the edge of the greatest transgression the book will ever describe. They knew it was forbidden. That is the whole weight of it. They were not ignorant. They were watchers, wise and ancient, and they knew, every one of them, that to do this was to break the deepest law of their kind, to fall from what they were into something else, something lost. And their leader, a watcher whose name the book gives as Semjaza, knew something more. He knew that if they went down and it went wrong, as forbidden things do, the guilt would be too great for any one of them to bear alone. And so he made them do a thing that seals the horror of it. Before they descended, he made them swear. Come with me to the mountain where they swore. It is the next room of the book, and it is a strange, cold, beautiful place, and there is no hurry to reach it. Let the drone hold you. Let your eyes close if they wish. The watchers are still standing on the edge of the air, deciding. We have a moment yet before they fall. They came down onto the summit of a mountain, and the book remembers its name. Mount Hermon. A real mountain, you could stand on it today, high and cold in the north of that ancient land, its head white with snow for much of the year. It was onto that high, cold summit, the book says, that the 200 watchers descended in the days of the young world. And there, before they went any further, before they touched the world of men at all, they bound themselves together with an oath. Imagine the scene in the thin air at the top of the world. 200 luminous beings come down out of heaven, standing in a great ring upon the snow, and one by one binding themselves by a terrible vow, that they would go through with it, all of them together, that not one would turn back and leave the others to fall alone. They swore it upon the mountain, and by the swearing they made themselves forever a single body, a single guilt. From that oath, the book says, the mountain itself took a new meaning. Its very name became bound up with the curse of that vow, the place where the sons of heaven bound themselves to their fall. There is something almost unbearably human in it for being so far above the human, the fear of doing wrong alone, the need to know that everyone else is going to do it too. The oath is not a thing of monsters. It is a thing of the frightened, of those who know they are about to cross a line and cannot face crossing it by themselves. 200 of them on the cold summit, holding hands across the snow of the young world, swearing that none of them would be the only one to fall. And then, the oath sworn, the vow sealed, they went down off the mountain into the green world of men below. And the book says that they took wives from among the daughters of men, each of them choosing, and they went into them and they taught them things. And here the story turns from longing into something far darker, because it was not only love the watchers brought down the mountain. It was knowledge. Knowledge that was never meant to be given. And with that knowledge, the ruin of the world begins. But that is the next room, and you are drifting now, and there is no hurry. Stay a moment on the cold, bright summit in the thin, high air, where 200 fallen watchers have just sworn their oath and started down the mountain into history. Let it be quiet. Let it be still. We will follow them down when you are ready and not before. What did they teach, the fallen watchers, to the people of the young world? This is one of the strangest passages in the whole book, and one of the most quietly unsettling. So let us go slowly through it in the dark where nothing can trouble you. The book gives names, and it gives the teachings beside them like a dark and careful ledger. One of the watchers, it says, a leader among them, called Azazel, taught men to make the weapons of war, swords and knives and shields and armor. Before him, the book seems to say, the world had not known how to arm itself for killing. He taught them the working of metals, the drawing of blades, the making of the tools with which men would, from then on, destroy one another. Something that had not been in the world was now in it and could never be taken out again. And the same watcher, the book says, taught something stranger beside the weapons. He taught the women. He taught them the making of bracelets and ornaments, the use of the precious metals and stones, the art of painting the eyes with dark color, and the beautifying of the eyelids and all the vanities of adornment. As if to say that the same hand that first taught the world to kill also first taught it to disguise itself, to paint over what it was, a strange, dark pairing that the book sets down without explanation and lets you feel the weight of on your own. Others taught other things. One taught the cutting of roots and the working of herbs, the beginnings, perhaps, of medicine, but also of poison and of sorcery. One taught the loosing of spells and enchantments. And several of them, the book says, taught the reading of the heavens, the signs of the sun and the moon and the stars, the courses of the luminaries, the knowledge that would become astrology, the reading of fate in the sky. Now notice what all of these have in common in the mind of whoever first wrote this down so long ago. Every one of them is a real thing. Metalwork, cosmetics, medicine, astronomy, the ordinary furniture of civilization, the knowledge that built the ancient world. And the Book of Enoch looks at all of it, at the whole inheritance of human skill and science, and it says a quietly terrible thing. It says, this did not come up from below. This came down from above, and it was forbidden. It was stolen. It was given to us by beings who had fallen, who were never meant to give it, and its coming into the world was not a gift but a wound. You do not have to believe that. Lie here in the dark and simply feel the strangeness of it. A 3,000-year-old book that looks at everything human beings know how to do, and sees, underneath it, a theft from heaven, a knowledge that came into the world through an open door that should have stayed shut. Whatever else it is one of the oldest and strangest ways anyone has ever tried to explain why a world so full of wonders should also be so full of grief. And the grief in the book is about to arrive, because the watchers did not only bring knowledge down the mountain, They took wives, and their wives, the book says, bore them children, and the children were not like other children. Let us go slowly and gently and without any fear to see what was born. The children of the watchers were giants. The book says it plainly, and the Bible, echoes it. In another of those single strange lines that most readers pass right over, that in those days there were giants in the earth, mighty men, men of renown. The Nephilim, the fallen ones, or the ones who cause others to fall. Even the meaning of their name is uncertain, lost in the deep dark of the beginning. They were the offspring, the book says, of the union that was never meant to be of the sons of heaven and the daughters of earth, of beings from two worlds that should never have touched. And what was born of that joining was something that belonged fully to neither world. Enormous. The book reaches for numbers to describe their height, and the numbers are vast, impossible, the height of towers, of hills. Giants striding the young earth, the children of angels, too large for the world that made them. And at first, perhaps, it was only wonder. Imagine seeing them in the young world, these towering figures, radiant with something of their father's fallen light, walking among the ordinary people like living mountains. But wonder in this book always turns, because the giants were hungry, vastly, impossibly hungry in proportion to their size, and the young world could not feed them. The book describes it with a rising horror that is all the more terrible for how quietly it begins. First, the giants consumed all that the labor of men could produce, all the grain, all the flocks, all the fruit of the whole earth devoured, until there was nothing left, and men themselves began to starve beneath them. And then, when the food of the world was gone, the giants, the book says, turned upon the people. They began to devour mankind itself. And then, at the last, in their endless hunger, they began to devour one another, and to drink blood, and the whole young earth became a place of violence and terror under the shadow of the things that the fallen watchers had brought into being. This is the low point of the book's first movement. A world drowning not yet in water that comes later, but in violence. A world groaning under giants, taught to make weapons, painted and armed and bleeding, its innocence gone, its balance broken, all because 200 watchers long ago could not bear only to watch. And here in the deepest dark of the story something answers, because the ruin of the earth did not go unseen. The book lifts its eyes now, away from the suffering world, up past the giants, up past the fallen watchers, all the way up to the great quiet ones who had never fallen, to the archangels, standing in the high places of heaven, looking down at last at what the earth had become. And what they saw and what they did is where we will go next, but not yet. Rest here a moment, safe in the dark, far from the young world and its giants. You are only reading an old story. The giants are 3,000 years and half the world away. Nothing here can reach you. Let your breath go long. Let the story wait. We will climb to the archangels when you are ready. High above the groaning world, in the great quiet of heaven, the ones who had not fallen were watching. The book names 4 of them, and the names may be familiar to you. Even here, even now, drifting in the dark, Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and one it calls Uriel, the light of God. The great archangels, the ones who kept their place when the 200 did not. And they looked down from the high places at what the earth had become, and they heard something rising from below. The book describes it in a way that will stay with you. It says that the blood of the innocent and the souls of those the giants had devoured and the suffering of the whole ruined earth rose up as a single sound, a crying, a great ceaseless crying that went up from the world of men, past the sky, all the way to the gates of heaven itself. The earth laid waste was crying out, and the archangels heard it. Imagine them, standing at the edge of the high country of heaven, looking down through all that height at the small suffering world, listening to its cry. They did not act on their own. That is not their way in the book. Instead, they carried what they had seen and heard higher still up to the throne of the Most High, to the one the book calls the Great Holy One, the Lord of the Ages, and they laid the whole ruin of the earth before him. They spoke, the book says, on behalf of the dying world. You see what Azazel has done, they said. You see the teaching he has spread and the blood upon the earth and the souls crying out. You see the watchers who have gone into the daughters of men and the giants they have made, and the whole earth filled with violence. And you know all things before they come to be. What would you have us do? It is one of the oldest scenes of its kind ever written, the moment when the suffering of the world is carried up and set at last, before the one who can answer it, and an answer comes. From the high throne, beyond the archangels, beyond the fallen watchers, beyond the whole broken world, a sentence is spoken. And to carry the first part of that sentence down into the world of men, heaven chooses a messenger. It chooses a man. It chooses the one man who walks so closely with the divine that he can be trusted to stand between heaven and the fallen. It chooses Enoch. But before Enoch is sent, the sentence itself is pronounced, and it is vast, and it is terrible, and it reaches all the way to the end of the world. Let us hear it quietly from a safe distance in the dark. Let your breath go slow. Nothing that is judged here tonight has anything to do with you. You are only listening. The judgment of heaven in the Book of Enoch comes down in parts, each one spoken to a different archangel, each one a different thread of the same great unmaking. To Raphael, the command concerns Azazel, the watcher who taught the making of weapons and the painting of faces, the one the book seems to hold most guilty of all. And the sentence upon him is strange and vivid and unforgettable. Bind him, heaven says. Bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness. And the book names a place, a rough and jagged wilderness, and says that he is to be laid there in the dark under sharp stones, his face covered so that he may see no light, and there to remain until the great day of judgment at the end of the world, when he will at last be cast into the fire. The one who brought the fallen light down to men is sentenced to lie in total darkness until the world ends. To Gabriel, the command concerns the giants, the vast and hungry children of the watchers. And here the sentence is subtle and terrible. Gabriel is not told simply to destroy them. He is told to set them against one another, to send them into battle, the giants against the giants, so that they destroy themselves by their own violence. The very violence they had brought into the world turned back upon its makers, until not one of them is left standing on the earth. And to Michael, the greatest, the command concerns the watchers themselves, Semjaza and all who swore the oath upon the mountain. Bind them, heaven says, beneath the hills of the earth, in the valleys and the deep places, and let them lie there, watching while their children are destroyed before their eyes, while everything they made and loved is unmade. And let them lie bound for 70 generations in the dark under the world, until the day of their final judgment. And over all of it, over the bound watchers and the self-slaughtering giants and the whole poisoned earth, heaven pronounces the last and largest part of the sentence. The earth itself is to be washed clean. A great deluge is coming, a flood of waters that will cover the whole world and wash away the blood, and the violence and the corruption and the last of the giants and every trace of what the watchers did, and give the earth at the last a chance to begin again clean. This is the flood you may already know from the story of Noah, from the ark and the rain and the dove. But the Book of Enoch tells you why. It gives the flood a reason older and stranger than the one you were taught. Not simply that men had grown wicked, but that heaven itself had been breached, that a forbidden knowledge had come down, that giants walked the earth, and that the only way to close the wound was to wash the whole world away and start over. The flood in this book is not punishment alone. It is heaven cleaning up after a catastrophe that began in heaven. The sentence is spoken. The end of that first world is now certain. And into that certainty, heaven sends a single man to carry word of the verdict down to the fallen, to Enoch, who must now go and tell the watchers that there will be no mercy. Come with him gently to that meeting. It is one of the strangest in the whole book. Why Enoch? Of all the people in the young and dying world, why was he the one heaven chose to stand between itself and the fallen? The book gives him a title quietly that answers it. It calls him the scribe of righteousness. Enoch, of all men, could write, and more than that, he could be trusted with truth. He walked with God, the old line says, and in the book that walking has made him something almost unique in the world. A man who is at home in both realms, who can stand in the presence of the holy without being destroyed by it, and who can come back down among men and set down faithfully what he has seen and heard. A man heaven can use as a pen. And so the word comes to Enoch. It comes, the book says, in the way such words come to him, in visions, in the voice of the messengers, in the strange clarity that descends on him when heaven wishes to speak. He is told the sentence. He is told what has been decided about Azazel and the giants and the watchers and the coming of the flood. And he is told to go and carry that verdict down to the watchers themselves, to Semjaza and all the 200, and to tell them to their faces what heaven has decreed. Think of the weight of that errand. Enoch is a man, a mortal man, however righteous, however close to God, and he is being sent to stand before 200 fallen angels, beings of the upper world, ancient and luminous and powerful beyond anything human, and to tell them that they are condemned, that there will be no mercy, that they will be bound in the dark and their children destroyed and their world washed away. A man carrying a death sentence to angels, and he goes. That is the quiet astonishment of it. He does not refuse. He takes up the terrible message and he goes to find the watchers, wherever they have hidden themselves in the ruined world, and he stands before them, small and mortal and unafraid, to deliver the word of heaven. But when he comes to them, something happens that the book did not prepare us for, and that no one delivering a death sentence ever expects. The condemned do not rage at him. They do not strike him down. Instead, the 200 fallen watchers, hearing their doom, are overcome with fear, and they turn to Enoch, the mortal man, the scribe, and they beg him. They beg him for his help. Let us go softly and hear what they ask. It is one of the most human things in this whole vast and cosmic book. Picture it. The fallen watchers gathered to hear their sentence, and among them this one small man, Enoch, who has come to pronounce it. And when he has spoken, when the full weight of heaven's verdict has settled over them, the 200 do not answer with anger, they answer with terror. For all their ancient power, they are afraid. They have understood at last fully what they have done and what it will cost them, and the understanding has broken something in them. And they cannot lift their own eyes to heaven anymore. That is the detail the book gives, and it is a piercing one. They are so ashamed, so afraid, that they can no longer look up at the sky they came from. They cannot bring their own petition before the throne. They dare not. And so they turn to the one who can. They come to Enoch, the mortal, the man they once looked down upon from their high places, and they beg him to do for them the thing they can no longer do for themselves. Write for us, they say. Write a petition, a prayer for mercy on our behalf. Set down our plea in your righteous hand and carry it up and read it before the Lord of heaven, because we cannot. We cannot raise our eyes. Speak for us. Ask that we be forgiven. Ask that the sentence be lifted. There is something almost unbearably sad in it. These beings that fell out of heaven for wanting the world too much, now wanting heaven back and unable to ask for it themselves, turning to a human being to be their voice. And Enoch, this is the measure of the man. Enoch agrees. He does not gloat. He does not refuse them their small hope. He takes up his pen and he writes their petition, all their plea for mercy faithfully, and then he goes apart to a quiet place by the waters, and he sits down to read it before heaven and to wait for the answer. And while he waits, sitting by the water with the watcher's plea in his hands, sleep comes over him. A deep sleep, the book says. And in that sleep, the answer begins to come, not in words at first, but in visions, great and rolling visions that lift him up out of himself, up off the earth, up toward the very throne he is petitioning. The refusal of the watcher's prayer and the beginning of Enoch's own great journey arrive together in a dream by the water. Let sleep come over you too here the way it came over him. There is a symmetry in it that is almost a lullaby, the scribe by the water, the petition in his hands, the deep sleep rising, the visions beginning. Let your own visions begin. We will follow his up into the heavens in a moment. There is no hurry. Rest. By the water with Enoch. In the dream by the water, heaven gives its answer to the watcher's plea, and the answer is no. It is not a cruel no. That is important, and the book is careful with it. Enoch is shown in his vision. The reason is made to understand why there can be no mercy of the kind the watchers ask for. They were beings of heaven. The answer runs. Spiritual, eternal, undying. They did not need wives or children or the things of the flesh. Those things belong to the creatures of earth who die, and who therefore must bear children so that their kind continues. Heaven had no need of it. The watchers had everything already forever, and they threw it away, reached down out of their eternal fullness and took the things of the dying world, and in doing so made themselves into something neither eternal nor mortal, something lost between the worlds. And what they set in motion cannot simply be forgiven and undone. The giants are already born. The blood is already spilled. The knowledge is already loose in the world. Some doors once opened cannot be closed by an apology. So Enoch is given the message he must carry back down to them, and it is heavy. Tell them, heaven says, that their petition is not granted. Tell them they will have no peace. Tell them that they will see the destruction of their beloved children, the giants, with their own eyes and be able to do nothing. Tell them they will be bound in the dark for the long ages until the end. There is no softening it. Enoch must go back down to the fallen and tell them that the mercy they begged for will not come. And yet, and this is the strange grace that runs underneath even the harshest parts of this book, the same vision that carries the refusal also carries a promise. Not for the watchers, for the world. Enoch is shown that after the flood, after the cleansing, after the long dark ages of judgment, there will be at the very end of all things a setting right. A day when the fallen will finally be dealt with forever, and the earth will be renewed, and the righteous will be gathered, and peace, real peace, will come at last. The book never lets the darkness be the final word. Behind the sentence, always, there is a far-off light. But before Enoch can carry any of this back down, before he wakes and returns to the frightened watchers by the water, the vision does not release him. Instead, it deepens. It lifts him further. The dream that began as an answer becomes a journey, and Enoch feels himself rising, drawn up out of the world entirely, carried by winds and clouds toward places no living man has ever been. His great ascent has begun. Come up with him gently into the first of the heavens. Let yourself rise the way he rises, slow and unafraid, up and away from the dark earth. Rest and rise. This is the moment the whole book has been moving toward, and it is one of the oldest descriptions of such a thing anywhere in human writing. A living man, lifted up off the earth and carried into the heavens. Feel how the book describes it, because it is trying to give words to something beyond words, and the reaching is beautiful. It says that clouds called to him, that a mist called to him, that the course of the stars and flashes of lightning hastened him and drove him upward, and that the winds in the vision lifted him and bore him aloft and carried him up and up into the sky. He is not climbing. He is being carried, gathered up by the very elements of heaven, the clouds and the winds and the lightning, all of them bearing this one small man up out of the world. And as he rises, the earth falls away below him. Imagine it with him, the ruined world, the giants, the fallen watchers, the crying earth, all of it growing small and quiet beneath him as he is lifted higher, until it is only a dim thing far below, and above him, ahead of him, the heavens are opening. He comes, the book says, to a wall. A great wall built of a strange white stone and surrounded by tongues of fire, a wall of crystal, ringed in flame, standing at the threshold of the heavenly country. And the fire frightens him. Who would it not frighten? But he is carried on through the fire, unburned, up to a great house. A house built of crystal, the book says. Its walls like a floor of crystal, its foundations of crystal, its ceiling like the path of the stars and the lightning, and between them moving things of fire. A house of ice and flame together, cold and burning at once, and Enoch is carried into it. And the fear that comes upon him, there is a fear unlike anything in the world below the fear and the trembling of a mortal creature standing at last inside the outer courts of heaven. And this is only the first house. This is only the threshold. Beyond it, the book says, there is a second house, greater than the first, more glorious, more terrible, built all of fire, and in it a throne. But we will not go all the way in tonight, not yet. You are drifting now, rising with Enoch through the crystal and the flame, and there is no need to reach the throne before you sleep. Let yourself hang here for now in the high country between the worlds, the earth far below and dim, the heavens opening above, the wind still bearing you gently upward, the crystal house glimmering ahead. It is cold here and vast and utterly quiet, and there is nothing to fear because you are only being carried the way Enoch was carried up and up out of the dark and toward the light. Rest in the rising. We will go on into the heavens when you wake, or perhaps we will go on while you sleep and you will meet the throne in your dreams. Either way, rest. You are being carried, you are safe. Rise and rest. Beyond the first house of crystal, the book says, there was a second, and it was greater. Enoch is carried on, deeper into the heavenly country, and he comes to the second house, and everything about it is larger and more terrible than the first. Where the first was crystal ringed in fire, this one is built wholly of flame. Its floor is fire. Its ceiling is fire. And Enoch, carried in through its door, finds that there is nothing in this house of the coldness he felt before, only heat and light and a glory so great that he can barely bring himself to describe it. And in the midst of the house of fire there is a throne. The book reaches here for the very edge of what language can do, and you can feel it straining. The throne is lofty, it says, and its appearance is like crystal, and its wheels are like the shining sun, and the sound of it is like the voices of the cherubim. From beneath the throne come rivers of flame, streams of fire pouring out, so that Enoch cannot even look at them. And upon the throne sits the great glory. The book will not describe him directly, it dares not. It says only that his raiment shone more brightly than the sun and was whiter than any snow. It says that none of the angels could enter that house or look upon his face for the splendor and the majesty of it. Even the holiest of the holy, the flaming ones who stand nearest, could not gaze upon him. And there, in the doorway of that house of fire before the throne of the great glory, stands Enoch, a mortal man trembling his face down, not daring to look up. He has been carried past every barrier, through the crystal and the flame, all the way to the threshold of the highest presence there is. And a voice calls to him. The Lord himself, the book says, calls Enoch with his own mouth and says to him gently, "Come here, Enoch, and hear my word. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid." To the one mortal creature carried all the way up into the fire of heaven, the first word is "do not be afraid." And from there, from the very foot of the throne, Enoch is given his commission fully, the message for the watchers, the certainty of the flood, the shape of the judgment. But the throne room is not the end of his journey. It is the center of it. For once Enoch has stood before the glory, he is given something extraordinary. He is given the freedom of heaven. He is to be taken, now on a great tour of the hidden architecture of all things, the storehouses, the far places, the secret machinery of the cosmos, with an archangel as his guide, so that he may see and understand and write it down for those who will come after. Let that be the shape of your rest tonight. You have stood with Enoch at the foot of the throne of fire, and the first word spoken to you there was, "Do not be afraid." Carry that down into sleep. There is nothing here to fear. You are only being shown the hidden rooms of the world. Come and let us be shown them slowly, one by one. Enoch's guide through much of what follows is the archangel Uriel, the light of God, and the first thing Uriel shows him is that heaven is not empty. It is full of storehouses. This is one of the most quietly wonderful ideas in the whole book, and it is a perfect thing to drift to sleep inside of, so let us go slowly. The book imagines that every force in the world, every element, every weather, is not simply loose in the sky, but is kept stored in vast heavenly treasuries, and let out in its season by measure, by the hand of heaven. Enoch is shown the storehouses of the winds, great chambers where the winds are kept, each in its own place, and from which they are released to do their work, to turn the sky, to carry the clouds, to move the sea, and then their work done, drawn back into their storehouses to rest. He is shown the chamber from which the winds come that hold up the earth, and the winds of the dew, and the winds of the rain. He is shown the storehouses of the snow and the frost and the hail, cold, bright chambers in the height of heaven, from which the winter is let down upon the world. He is shown the storehouse of the mist, and the chambers where the clouds are gathered before they go out. He is shown the paths of the thunder and the lightning, and the book has a lovely, strange idea here, that the lightning and the thunder are not chaos at all, but are bound together and released in order, each with its purpose, part of the great ordered machinery of the sky. And most of all, he has shown the paths of the great luminaries, the sun and the moon and the stars, the gates in the east through which they come out, and the gates in the west into which they go down, and the exact and unchanging order of their coming and going. the whole vast clockwork of the heavens turning on and on in perfect and untroubled peace. Do you feel what the book is doing? After the horror of the giants, after the sentence and the coming flood, it lifts you up into a heaven that is not broken at all. That is orderly and full and calm, where every wind and every star has its storehouse and its path and its appointed time. All of it kept, all of it measured, all of it held. The chaos was only ever down below in the world men and watchers had spoiled. Up here, everything is in its place. There is a deep comfort in that, and the book means for you to feel it. The universe underneath everything is kept. Let it keep you too. Imagine the storehouses of the wind standing quiet in the height of heaven, full and calm and waiting. Imagine the stars going in and out of their golden gates in perfect order, on and on forever. Nothing is loose, nothing is lost, everything is held. Rest inside that ordered heaven and let it hold you the way it holds the winds and the snow and the stars. But not everything in heaven is at peace, and Uriel does not hide the darker places from Enoch. He shows him those too. They come in the journey to a terrible place, a place beyond the ordered heavens, out toward the edge of things, where there is neither the firm earth below nor the ordered sky above, only a great gulf, a chaos, a void, and in that void Enoch sees something that frightens him. He sees 7 stars. The book says 7 great burning stars, like great burning mountains bound together, cast down into that empty place, blazing in the dark. And he asks his guide, "What is this place and what are these?" And the answer is one of the strangest and most haunting in the book. These, Uriel tells him, are the stars that transgressed. The stars which did not come out at their appointed time, which did not keep to their paths, which broke the order of heaven. And for that, for stepping out of their courses, for disobeying the great clockwork, they have been bound here in this place of chaos in the fire for 10,000 years, until the time of their judgment is fulfilled. Stars imprisoned for disobedience. It is a strange and beautiful and terrible idea. In the mind of this ancient book, the lights of the sky are not only lights, they are beings of a kind, with paths to keep and an order to obey, and those that break it are punished, bound in the dark, burning, waiting. And the book means for you to hear underneath it the echo of the other fallen ones, the watchers, who also broke their order, who also left their appointed place, and who are also bound now in the dark, waiting for the end. The fallen stars and the fallen angels are 2 images of the same thing. What happens to those who step out of the great order and cannot step back? Enoch looks on the prison of the stars, blazing in the void, and he is afraid, and the book does not pretend otherwise. But here is the mercy that runs always underneath. Even this is temporary. Even the fallen stars are bound only until the time of their judgment is fulfilled. There is an end appointed even to this. Nothing in the book's dark places is truly forever, except the final peace that comes after them. So you may look from a safe distance in the dark at the 7 burning stars in their prison and feel the strangeness of it and not be troubled. They are very far away at the edge of a story in a void beyond the world. And you are here, held safe in the ordered part of heaven, where the winds are in their storehouses and the good stars keep their paths. Let the prison of the stars burn far off at the edge of your sleep, and turn back with Enoch toward the calmer country. Rest. The journey carries Enoch out now to the very edges of the world, to the ends of the earth, the far places that hold everything up. The book imagines the world in a way no one imagines it anymore, and there is a great, strange beauty in stepping back for a while into that older picture. The earth in Enoch's vision is a vast flat country with edges, with ends, and at those ends are wonders. He comes to the place where the heavens rest upon the earth, where the great pillars of the sky come down. He sees the cornerstones of the earth. He sees the winds that hold the firmament of heaven in its place, stretched out between earth and sky, keeping the whole structure standing. He is shown the great deep and the abyss, the vast waters below and beyond, the foundations of everything. He walks in the vision, past the ends of the earth where no living foot has ever gone, out where the ordinary world gives way to the deep machinery of creation, the gates of the winds, the chambers of the waters, the far places from which the rivers of the world are fed. And there is a lovely quality to how he moves through all this. He is not afraid here, the way he was in the throne room and at the prison of the stars. He is simply shown, and he looks and he blesses. Again and again in these passages, the book says that Enoch saw, and Enoch blessed the Lord of glory who had made such things. He is a traveler in a country of wonders, being shown the hidden foundations of the world, and his response over and over is gratitude, not fear, wonder and thanks. Let yourself travel with him out past the ends of the earth in that old, flat, wondrous world, the pillars of heaven, the cornerstones of the ground, the winds that hold everything up, the great deep beneath it all. It is a picture of the world that is not true and does not need to be true to be beautiful, the sense that underneath the ordinary ground there is a vast and hidden architecture, holding everything in place, tended by heaven, going down further than any of us will ever see. There is a peace in imagining the world that way, as a made thing, a built thing, held up by hidden pillars and kept by patient hands. Whatever holds up the real world, let this old dream of it hold you tonight, the flat far country, the pillars of the sky, the cornerstones of the earth, all of it standing quiet and firm at the edges of the world, keeping everything, keeping you. Rest at the ends of the earth. Nothing there will ever fall. Of all the wonders Enoch is shown at the ends of the earth, one is more beautiful than the rest, and the book lingers on it, and so will we, because it is a good place to be as sleep comes close. He comes in his travels to a range of 7 great mountains, and the book describes them like jewels, mountains of colored stone, of precious stone, one of them towering above the others, its summit reaching toward heaven like a throne. And around and among these mountains grow trees unlike any trees of the ordinary world. Fragrant trees, the book says. Trees whose scent fills all the air of that far country. Trees more beautiful than any that grow in the lands of men. And in the midst of them, upon the 7th mountain, the throne-like one, there is a single tree, and Enoch has never seen anything like it, and neither the book means have you. Its fragrance is beyond all fragrance. Its leaves and its blossom and its wood do not wither. Its fruit is beautiful, and it is like the fruit of the date palm, and the scent of it reaches far, far off across the world. And Enoch, seeing it, wonders at it and asks his guide what it is. And the archangel, here it is the angel Michael, the book says, tells him. This tree, he says, no mortal is permitted to touch until the great judgment, until everything is set right at last. But afterwards, when the fallen are dealt with and the earth is renewed and the righteous are gathered, this tree, this fragrant tree, will be given to them. Its fruit will be food for the chosen. It will be transplanted to a holy place beside the house of God, and the righteous and the humble will eat of it, and its fragrance will be in their very bones, and they will live long lives upon the earth, free from sorrow and pain and torment. It is a tree of life, kept in reserve at the far edge of the world against the day when all grief is finally ended. Sit with that image, and let it be the last bright thing you see before you sleep. Somewhere in the old dream of the world at the ends of the earth, on a mountain like a throne, among fragrant trees whose scent fills the whole far country, there grows a single tree, untouched, waiting, its fruit reserved for the end of all sorrow. It is not for now. It is for after. It is heaven's promise that the story does not end in the flood or the darkness or the prison of the stars, but in a garden and a fragrance and a long life without pain, for everyone who ever quietly kept faith through the dark. Breathe in that far fragrance in your imagination as your eyes grow heavy. The 7 jeweled mountains, the fragrant trees, the one tree waiting on the throne mountain for the end of grief. Let its scent reach all the way to you here in the dark tonight. Rest among the mountains at the ends of the earth. Rest beneath the tree that is kept for the end of all sorrow. There is one more place Enoch is shown before part of our journey closes, and it is the quietest of all, the place where the dead wait. He comes in his travels to a great mountain in the far west, and within it he sees deep, smooth, hollow places, chambers hollowed out of the rock, deep and wide and quiet. And he asks his guide what they are, and he is told that these are the hollow places where the souls of the dead are gathered and kept until the day of judgment, that all the spirits of the children of men, when they die, come here to these deep, quiet chambers to wait. And the book divides them gently. There is a place for the righteous, and the book gives it a lovely detail, a bright spring of water with light above it, so that the just do not wait in darkness, but beside living water in the light at rest. And there are separate places for the others, for those who did harm and were not answered for it in life, who wait in a different quiet for the setting right that is to come. But what stays with you, drifting here in the dark, is the central image, the great quiet mountain in the west, and within it the deep hollow chambers, and in them all the souls of everyone who has ever lived and died, gathered and kept and waiting in the stillness beside the spring in the light. Not gone, not lost, kept, the same word again, the word that runs through this whole strange heaven, kept. The winds are kept in their storehouses. The stars are kept in their gates. The tree is kept for the end of sorrow, and the dead too are kept, held quietly in the deep places of the earth, beside the living water, waiting for the morning of the world. This is where we will leave the journey for tonight, not in fire, not at the throne, not before the prison of the stars, but here in the quiet hollow places, beside the bright spring, where everyone who has gone before is resting and waiting and safe. It is, of all the rooms of heaven Enoch was shown, perhaps the gentlest and the most human and the most like sleep. To lie down in the quiet, beside the light and the living water, and to wait without fear for the morning. Let it be your room too tonight, the deep quiet chamber, the bright spring, the soft light above the water, everyone who ever lived resting near you in the stillness. There is nothing to fear in the hollow places. They are only the great waiting room of the world, and they are quiet, and they are lit, and they are kept. Rest there. We have seen what the book says, the fall and the sentence, and the whole hidden architecture of heaven. Tomorrow, or in your dreams, we will ask the second question, how a book that saw all this came to be buried, but not now. Now only rest beside the spring in the light, in the quiet. Rest. We have seen what the book says. Now let us ask the second, quieter question, the one that turns a strange old text into a genuine mystery. If this book is so ancient and was once so treasured, then why is it not in the Bible on your shelf? What happened to it? Who decided the world should forget it? Because here is the thing that surprises almost everyone who learns it. The Book of Enoch was not some obscure heresy, scribbled in a corner and rightly ignored. For a long time, for centuries, it was loved. It was read and copied and quoted and treasured by the very people who were also reading the books that would become your Bible. It sat among them, honored, part of the sacred library of a whole world of believers. Try to picture that older world before there was a single fixed and finished Bible. There was no one book with a cover and a table of contents. There were scrolls, many, many scrolls, copied by hand, passed from community to community, read aloud in gatherings, argued over, cherished. And among those scrolls in that older world, the Book of Enoch had its honored place. People believed it. People quoted it as they quoted the prophets. To an ordinary, devout person 2,000 years ago, Enoch's visions of the watchers and the giants and the storehouses of heaven were not forbidden at all. They were simply part of the sacred story of the world. So the book did not begin in the shadows. It began in the light, inside the faith, not outside it, which makes its disappearance far stranger and far more deliberate than if it had always been a thing whispered in the dark. For something to be forgotten this completely, it must first have been known this well. You do not need to bury a thing that no one ever loved. And we can prove that it was loved and loved early because we have found the proof buried quite literally in the ground, in clay jars in the dark of desert caves, waiting 2,000 years for someone to open them. That is where we go next, to the caves and the scrolls and the oldest surviving pieces of Enoch's forbidden book. Let your breathing slow. We are leaving the heavens now and coming back down to earth, to the patient work of hidden things waiting a very long time to be found. Rest and come down with me to the caves. There is a dry and rocky wilderness above a dead and silent sea, and in the cliffs of that wilderness there are caves, and in the caves, for 2,000 years, someone's library was hidden. You may have heard of it. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the great trove of ancient writings, hidden away in clay jars in the caves above that lonely shore long, long ago, by a community of the devout who lived and prayed in that harsh place, and who, when danger came, sealed their sacred books in the jars and hid them in the dark, meaning surely to come back for them. They never came back, and the scrolls waited in the dry desert dark for 2,000 years, until in the middle of the last century they began to be found. And when scholars carefully unrolled and studied those ancient scrolls, among the books of the prophets and the Psalms and the sacred writings, they found something that settled one great question forever. They found the Book of Enoch. Fragments of it in the old language of Aramaic, copies older than almost anything else we have, older than the caves, older by far than the oldest complete Bibles in the world. Pieces of the very passages we have been walking through tonight, the watchers, the giants, the journey through the heavens, written out by hand and treasured by that desert community centuries before the birth of Christianity. Think about what that means, lying here in the dark. It means the Book of Enoch is not a late forgery, not a medieval invention, not a thing dreamed up long after and pretended to be old. It is genuinely, provably ancient. It was already old, already copied and recopied and cherished, already sacred to devout communities 2,000 years ago and more. Those clay jars in the desert caves are a kind of witness, sealed and preserved across the ages, testifying that this book was real and old and loved long before anyone thought to remove it. So the mystery only deepens. Here is a book old enough to be hidden in the same jars as the holiest scriptures, copied by the same reverent hands, kept in the same sacred library in the desert. Not a stranger to the faith, a member of its innermost family, and yet it would be cast out. But before it was cast out, it left its fingerprints in the most unexpected place of all, inside the New Testament itself. Come and see. This is the strangest turn of the whole history. Here is the fact that stops people in their tracks, the one that makes the removal of this book so genuinely puzzling. The New Testament, the Christian scriptures, the Gospels, and the letters quotes the Book of Enoch directly by name. Near the very end of the New Testament, there is a short letter, the letter of Jude. It is only a page long, easy to overlook. But in it, the writer, warning his readers against the ungodly, reaches for a prophecy to support himself. And the prophecy he reaches for is not from Isaiah or Moses or David. It is from Enoch. He writes plainly that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied, and then he quotes him. He quotes a passage about the Lord coming with his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, a passage that is right there in the Book of Enoch, almost word for word. Sit with the strangeness of that. A book that would later be cast out of Scripture, declared not to belong, quietly forgotten for 1,000 years, is quoted as true prophecy by name inside the Scripture that remained. The writer of Jude clearly knew the Book of Enoch, clearly valued it, clearly expected his readers to know it too and to accept a quotation from it as carrying weight. To him, Enoch was a prophet, and his book was worth quoting alongside the holiest words there were. This is the knot at the center of the whole mystery, and no one has ever fully untied it. If the Book of Enoch was false or dangerous or unworthy, why does the New Testament quote it as true? And if it was true enough to quote in Scripture, why was it then removed from Scripture? How can the same book be good enough to cite as prophecy in one place and unfit to include as Scripture in the next? The book is, in a sense, still there, still inside your Bible, hidden in that one quotation in Jude, a single thread left showing from a garment that was otherwise entirely taken away. The earliest believers felt this tension too. Some of them embraced the Book of Enoch wholeheartedly, precisely because of that quotation, reasoning that if the Scripture itself quoted Enoch, then Enoch's book must be holy. Others grew uneasy and began to pull the other way. And so the book became a thing that the faith argued about for generations, loved by some, doubted by others, defended and attacked, hanging in the balance. Let us go gently and listen to that long argument, the slow, quiet centuries in which the fate of the book was decided. Rest and drift into the argument of the fathers. For several centuries, the Book of Enoch hung in the balance, and the great teachers of the early faith were divided over it, and the argument was long and quiet and slow, the way arguments were in a world of hand-copied scrolls and letters carried on foot across the sea. Some of the most respected early voices defended the book with real conviction. One famous teacher argued openly that the Book of Enoch should be honored, reasoning just as we did a moment ago, that since the Scripture itself, in the letter of Jude, quoted Enoch as a prophet, The book of that prophet could not be lightly thrown away. To reject Enoch, he suggested, was almost to reject a piece of scripture that had leaned upon it. For these defenders, the visions of the watchers explained things the other scriptures left mysterious: where evil had come from, why there had been giants, why the flood had been necessary. Enoch filled in the dark spaces. It answered the questions the shorter, sparer story left hanging. But others grew uneasy, and their unease slowly won. Partly it was a matter of authorship. Could a book really have been written by Enoch himself, from before the flood, and survived? That seemed hard to believe. Partly it was the strangeness of the content, the vivid angels and giants, the elaborate heavens, the machinery of the cosmos, all of it richer and stranger and more detailed than the restrained older scriptures. And to some minds, too rich, too strange, straying too far from the sober core of the faith. And partly, one suspects, it was simply that as the faith grew and organized itself and drew its boundaries, it wanted a fixed and manageable library, a settled list, and the wild and sprawling Book of Enoch did not fit neatly on the shelf. And so, decade by decade, community by community, the tide turned against it. It was quoted less, defended less, copied less. No single dramatic moment banished it. That is the quiet truth of it. There was no great council that stood up and cast the Book of Enoch into the fire. It was more like the drowning city of our first tale, a slow withdrawal, a gradual letting go. A book loved a little less each generation, cited a little less often until it slipped, almost without anyone deciding, outside the walls of the settled scripture and into the shadows just beyond them. In the West, in the great churches of Europe, that letting go became total. The Book of Enoch fell out of use, fell out of copying, fell out of memory. And then something happened that is almost hard to believe. It did not just fall out of favor, it fell out of existence. For more than 1,000 years in the whole Western world, the Book of Enoch was simply gone, not banned, not burned, just lost, so completely that people knew it only as a name, a rumor, a title with no text beneath it. Come into that long silence with me. It is one of the strangest disappearances in the history of books. For over 1,000 years in Europe and the whole Western world, the Book of Enoch did not exist. Not as a text you could open, only as a ghost. Scholars knew the name. They found the quotation in Jude and the references in the Old Fathers, and they knew that once there had been a Book of Enoch, a real book, quoted and defended and treasured. But the book itself was nowhere. No copy could be found, in any library, in any language, anywhere in the Western world. It had slipped so completely out of the copying and the keeping that the living text had simply vanished, leaving only the outline of its absence, the strange shape of a book that everyone had once known and no one could now read. Imagine being a scholar in those long centuries and knowing that there had been a whole scripture, ancient, quoted in your own New Testament, full of visions of the beginning of the world, and that it was gone utterly, and that you would never read it, because there was not a copy left on the earth, so far as anyone knew. A book quoted inside the holiest text of your civilization and lost. It must have felt like a door in a familiar house that everyone remembered but no one could any longer find. And here is the quiet miracle, the thing that makes this whole story turn from a tragedy into a mystery with a strange, bright ending. The book was not, in fact, gone from the whole earth. It had only gone from the west. Far to the south, in the highlands of Ethiopia, in one of the oldest Christian lands in the world, in a church that had held to its own ancient canon while the rest of the world changed around it. There, all along, through all those 1,000 years of Western silence, the Book of Enoch had survived. Whole, complete, copied faithfully, generation after generation in the old sacred language of Jez, treasured as scripture, read and honored exactly as it had been in the very beginning. While the West forgot it entirely, Ethiopia kept the whole thing unbroken across the very centuries in which everyone else had lost it. The one book that had drowned everywhere else was still afloat, still living, still read aloud in the mountain churches of a far and ancient land, waiting, though no one there thought of it as waiting, for the rest of the world to remember and come looking and find it again. And one day at last someone did. Come and meet the man who went and found it and carried it back out of the silence. Rest, and we will bring the lost book home. In the 18th century, a Scottish traveler named James Bruce set out for Ethiopia. He was after the source of the Nile and adventure, and the wonders of a land few Europeans had ever seen. But he came back carrying something he can hardly have known the full weight of, the copies of the complete Book of Enoch, the very book the West had lost for over 1,000 years, alive and whole in the Ethiopian tongue. Picture the strangeness of that homecoming. A book that had been a ghost, a rumor, an absence for more than a millennium, suddenly, physically back. Its actual text, its actual words, the watchers and the giants and the storehouses and the tree of life, readable again, after all that silence. The door that everyone remembered and no one could find opened at last, and the lost room behind it still there, still furnished, still exactly as it had always been. It took time after that for the book to be translated out of the old Ethiopian language and given back to the wider world in tongues people could read. But slowly it came. And when at last people could open it again and read what it said, the fall of the Watchers, the birth of the giants, Enoch carried up through the crystal and the flame, the whole vast strange architecture of that ancient heaven, the effect was profound. Here were answers to questions the familiar scriptures only hinted at. Here was the fuller story behind those single strange lines about giants in the earth, and a man who did not die. Here was a window, suddenly reopened, onto how some of the most ancient believers had imagined the deep beginning of the world. And here, too, was the discomfort, because now everyone could see plainly what the early church had argued over. Now everyone could feel the knot, a book quoted in the New Testament, ancient beyond doubt, treasured in the Dead Sea caves, honored by the early fathers, and yet cast out, forgotten, nearly lost forever. The return of the book did not settle the old argument. It reopened it for a whole new age, and it has never quite closed since. To this day, people read the Book of Enoch and feel the same unease, and the same wonder the early fathers felt, the sense of standing at a door that was deliberately shut, and looking through it, and not being entirely sure why it was ever closed. Which brings us at last to the heart of the mystery, the real question beneath the history. Not just how the book was lost, but why a scripture this old, this honored, this woven into the faith, should have been so thoroughly let go. Was it only the slow tides of history, Or was there something in the book itself, something it said, something it showed that the world in the end preferred not to keep looking at? Let us sit with that question gently as we cross into the last and deepest room of all, rest. The hardest question is also the quietest. So why was it buried? Why did the world let go of the Book of Enoch? Let us gather quietly the honest answers before we move into the deeper dark of the final question. Some of it surely was ordinary. Books are lost all the time, not by conspiracy but by neglect, copied less, valued less, crowded out by other books, until one day the last copy in a region crumbles and no one troubles to replace it. The Book of Enoch was long and strange and difficult, and as the faith settled into a fixed and simpler canon, a sprawling visionary text from before the flood was an awkward guest. Much of its fading was probably just that, the slow, undramatic drift of a thing gradually let go. Some of it was about trust. Could Enoch really have written it? Almost certainly not in the plain sense. The book, as we have it, was written far later than Enoch's supposed lifetime, by hands unknown, reaching back and telling the old story in their own age. And once that doubt took hold, it was easy to set the book aside as not quite what it claimed to be. A book that cannot be who it says it is becomes easy to leave outside the walls. But there is a quieter possibility too, and it is the one that keeps people awake, the one that has always given this book its shadow. It is the possibility that the Book of Enoch was set aside not only because it was doubtful or awkward or long, but because of what it said. Because it opened doors the settling faith preferred to keep shut. It said that the knowledge of civilization was stolen from heaven. It said that angels fell through desire and taught mankind forbidden things. It said that giants had walked the earth, and that the flood was heaven cleaning up its own catastrophe. It drew back the curtain on the machinery of the cosmos and the prison of the stars and the places of the dead in far more detail than the sober older scriptures ever dared. It was, in a word, too much, too strange, too vivid, too willing to say out loud things that a careful faith preferred to leave in reverent silence. We cannot know for certain which of these it was. Probably it was all of them together, the neglect and the doubt and the discomfort braided into one long, slow letting go until the book was gone. That is the honest answer to the second question, and it is enough of an answer to rest on. A book can be buried by a plot, but it can also be buried by a shrug, by a doubt, by 1,000 small preferences to look away. And the burying is just as complete either way. But underneath all of that history, all those reasonable human explanations, there remains the one question that history cannot touch, the question that has waited for us since the very first minutes of tonight, the deepest and quietest room of all. Set the history down now. Let it go, and come with me. As your eyes grow heavy and the dark grows soft into the last room, the room where we ask gently and without needing any answer, what if it is true? Rest. We are almost there. Here is the last room, the deepest one, and I promised you at the beginning that we would not reach it until you were already halfway into sleep. We are here now. Let everything soften. There is nothing to solve. We are only going to wonder, gently in the dark, about one quiet question. What if some thread of this old buried book reaches back and touches something that really happened? And there is one place to begin, because it is the strangest and the largest of all the echoes. The flood. The Book of Enoch tells of a great deluge that washed the whole corrupt world away and let it begin again. And that flood is not only in Enoch, and not only in the story of Noah you already know. It is, astonishingly, almost everywhere. Go looking and you will find it. Far to the east, in the oldest story ever written down, older than the Bible, a Mesopotamian hero is warned by the gods to build a great boat and save the living from a flood sent to drown the world. In the myths of ancient Greece, a flood covers the earth, and a single couple survives to begin the race of men again. Across the far waters, in the traditions of peoples who never met, in the Americas, in India, in the islands of the great oceans, in 100 separate tongues that never touched one another, the same shape appears, again and again and again, a world grown corrupt, a great flood, a remnant saved, a new beginning. Now there are calm and reasonable explanations for this, and we should hold them because they are probably true. Perhaps every people that ever lived near great water knew floods, real floods, terrible ones, and every culture wove that terror into a story, and the stories simply resemble one another because the fear was the same everywhere. Perhaps it is only that the human heart all over the earth imagines catastrophe and rescue in the same few shapes. That is likely most of the answer, and it is enough. But lie here in the dark and feel the strangeness anyway, because the strangeness is real even if the explanation is ordinary. All across the world in peoples who never met, there sleeps the same deep memory, that once the waters rose and covered everything and washed the old world away, and that we are the children of the few who were saved. The Book of Enoch is one voice in that vast global chorus, one telling of the drowning of the first world. And whether it is memory or fear or something stranger that we cannot name, there is no denying that humanity everywhere remembers a flood. Let that great shared memory hold you as you sink. You are the child of survivors. Everyone is. That is one thing the whole world agrees on. Rest. And then there are the giants, for the Book of Enoch is far from the only place they walk. The book tells of the Nephilim, the towering children of the Watchers, striding the young earth. And once again, when you go looking, you find that almost every people that ever told stories of giants. The old myths of Greece are full of them, the Titans, the giant sons of earth and sky, warring with the gods. The northern peoples told of frost giants, vast and ancient, older than the world of men. In folklore across every continent there are tales of a former race of giants who lived before us, who built the great old things, whose bones lie buried in the hills. And here too there is a calm explanation, and it is a rather beautiful one. For most of human history, people dug things up out of the ground, enormous bones, far too large for any animal they knew. We understand now that these were the fossil bones of creatures of the deep past, of great beasts long extinct. But to people without that knowledge, a colossal thigh bone weathering out of a hillside could only mean one thing: giants. There had been giants here once, and here were their bones. And so, all over the world, wherever the great old fossils lay in the earth, the stories of a vanished race of giants grew up around them, as naturally as grass. So the giants of Enoch may be no more than that, the same ancient human wonder at the great bones in the ground, given a name and a story. That is probably most of the truth of it, and it is a lovely truth that the myths of giants are really the fossils speaking, the deep past reaching up through the soil into the dreams of every people who ever tilled it. And yet, lie here and feel it. In the deep memory of nearly every human culture, there is the same conviction that before us in the dim beginning there were others, larger than us, older than us, a first race mighty and doomed who came before and are gone. The Book of Enoch simply gives them a heaven-born origin and a terrible end. But the underlying dream that we are not the first, that giants walked here before us and passed away, is one the whole world seems to share. Whether it is fossils or fear, or a true dim memory of something, we all seem to remember or to dream that we came after someone larger. Let that ancient dream be gentle tonight. Whatever walked here before us is long, long gone and rests like everything else in the quiet ground. Rest. There is a third echo, and it is the most haunting of the three because it touches something we still feel about knowledge itself. The Book of Enoch says that the arts of civilization, metalwork, and adornment, and medicine and reading the stars did not rise up from human cleverness, but came down, stolen from beings who were never meant to give them. Knowledge as a thing taken from above, against the will of heaven and paid for with ruin. And this too is a story the world tells over and over, in 100 forms. The ancient Greeks told of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods and gave it to mankind, fire, the beginning of all craft and civilization, and who was punished for it with an eternity of torment, chained to a rock at the edge of the world. Again and again in myth after myth, the same shape returns. A forbidden knowledge, a divine gift that was really a theft, a boon to mankind that came with a curse braided through it. The idea that the very things that raised us up also came at a terrible cost, that our knowledge is somehow stolen, somehow guilty, somehow not quite ours by right. Why do we tell this story over and over everywhere? Perhaps because it is simply how it feels to be human, to hold enormous power, the power to build and to heal and to read the heavens, and also the power to destroy and to poison and to make war, and to sense, somewhere deep, that this double-edged gift is almost too much for the creatures we are. The Book of Enoch and the myth of Prometheus and all the others are ways of saying a thing we have always half known, that our knowledge is a fire we were perhaps never quite ready to hold, that every gift of understanding has come with a shadow, that to know is also always to be burdened. You do not have to believe in fallen angels to feel the truth under that. Look at what we know how to do as a species, the wonders and the horrors, both grown from the same tree of knowledge. The Book of Enoch looked at that double inheritance 3,000 years ago and gave it a story. It came down from heaven stolen, and it wounded us even as it raised us. It is only a story, but it is a story about something real, the strange grief that runs underneath all our brilliance, the sense that we know more than we can safely bear. Let that old unease settle and soften and turn here in the dark into something almost like peace. The fire was given. We have carried it a long way, and tonight at least you can set it down and rest. Let us go gentler still and think, as sleep draws very near, about the watchers themselves, not whether they were real, but about the idea of them and why it has never quite let humanity go. The book calls them the Watchers because that was their task, to observe, to keep watch over the world from above, and never to interfere. And is that not, in a strange way, one of the oldest feelings a human being has ever had? The sense of being watched, the sense that above us or beyond us there are eyes, that the sky is not empty, that something looks down. Every people that ever lived has felt it and named it in its own way, as gods on a mountain, as ancestors in the stars, as spirits in the high places, as a single presence beyond the sky. The particular shapes change, but the underlying feeling is nearly universal, that we are seen, that our small lives down here in the dark unfold beneath some kind of gaze. The Book of Enoch simply gave that feeling a name and a story, a whole order of luminous beings whose one duty was to watch us, and whose tragedy was that watching turned to wanting, and wanting to falling. There is something oddly comforting in it, even now, even to those of us who make no claim about angels. To imagine that the world is watched, that it is not simply a cold machine turning in an empty dark, but a thing observed, attended, held in some kind of gaze. The book's watchers fell, yes, but before they fell, they watched faithfully for a long age, keeping their patient vigil over the young and sleeping world. And that image of a wakeful presence keeping watch over a sleeping earth is a very old and a very human comfort, and it is a fine thing to carry down into sleep. So let it keep watch over you tonight. Not the fallen ones, the faithful ones, the ones who never came down, the great quiet watchers of the old dream, standing their vigil above the turning world while everyone in it sleeps. Whether they are real or only a story humanity has always needed to tell, let the feeling under them be true for you tonight. That you are not alone in the dark, that the sky is not empty, that something keeps watch while you rest. Sleep beneath the watchers. Let them keep their vigil. You can let go. And so we come to the question itself, the one we have been circling all night, and I want to hold it with you now very gently and then let it go, because it is not a question meant to be answered. It is a question meant to be felt. What if it is true, not the whole of it? Not the giants exactly as described, not the numbers, not the crystal house measured to its walls. But what if? Underneath the strange old images, there is a thread, one thread that reaches back and touches something that really was. What if the deep memory of a drowned first world, shared by half the peoples of the earth, is a memory and not only a fear? What if the sense we all carry, that we came after something larger and older, is more than fossils and dreams? What if the ancient conviction that our knowledge is a stolen fire is not just a metaphor but a true intuition about what we are? We cannot know. That is the honest heart of it, and I would never pretend otherwise as you fall asleep. The Book of Enoch is almost certainly not history in the way a chronicle is history. It was written by human hands, reaching back and imagining the beginning, as human beings have always reached back and imagined the beginning. Its giants and its angels are, in all likelihood, exactly what they appear to be. A very old and very beautiful attempt to explain a world too full of both wonder and grief. And yet the buried book does something that the safe and settled explanations do not. It keeps a door open. It reminds us that the beginning of the world is genuinely dark to us, that we do not truly know what happened in those first ages, that our knowledge runs out back there into deep shadow, and that into that shadow the human imagination has always poured its strangest and most haunting dreams. The Book of Enoch is one of those dreams, older and stranger and more vivid than most, dreamed so long ago and buried so deep and recovered so improbably that it carries, still, an air of the forbidden, a sense of a truth half glimpsed and then hidden away. You do not need to decide. That is the gift of lying here in the dark with a book like this. You can hold the question open, unanswered, and simply feel the largeness of it, the deep unknown beginning, the shared memories of the whole human family, the door left ajar onto the shadowed first ages of the world. It is enough to wonder. It has always been enough to wonder. Let the question stay open, soft, unanswered, and let it carry you the rest of the way down. Rest. There is one last thing to wonder before the wondering itself dissolves into sleep. And it is not about the watchers or the giants or the flood. It is about us. About why a book like this pulls at us at all, because it does pull. There is a reason you are here in the dark, listening to the story of a scripture that was taken out of the Bible. There is a reason the words forbidden and removed and buried reach into something in us and turn a small key. We are creatures who cannot leave a closed door alone. Tell us that a room has been sealed and we want, more than anything, to see inside. Tell us that a book was hidden and it becomes at once more precious than 100 books that were freely given. Perhaps that is a flaw in us, or perhaps it is one of the finest things about us. This refusal to accept that any door should stay shut forever, this hunger for the hidden, this ancient and unkillable curiosity that has driven us to open every sealed thing we ever found, to sail past every edge, to dig up every buried book. The Book of Enoch was buried for 1,000 years, and we went and found it and carried it back into the light, because we are the kind of creature that cannot bear to leave a lost thing lost. That is the same hunger that lifted Enoch up through the crystal and the flame, the longing to see what was hidden, to know what lay beyond the wall. He is, in a way, the patron of everyone who has ever been unable to stop wondering. And tonight you have followed him. You have stood at the door that was deliberately shut and looked through it into the strangest dreams of the ancient world, the fall, the giants, the sentence, the great journey through the storehouses of heaven, the prison of the stars, the tree kept for the end of sorrow. You have read the forbidden book. You have opened the sealed room. And now, having seen what was inside, you can do the wisest thing of all, the thing Enoch himself did at the end of every vision. You can bless the strangeness of it and set it down and rest. The door will still be open in the morning if you want to return to it. The book is not going anywhere now. It has survived far too much to be lost again. But tonight your work is done. You have wondered enough. You have followed the story all the way to the edge of sleep. Let the door stand open behind you, soft and dim, and turn away from it now gently toward rest. There is nothing more to see tonight. There is only sleep. Let it come. Let go. We have wondered enough at the hard questions. Let us go back now one last time into the book itself, not into its terrors, but into its quietest and most beautiful dreams, the ones it saved for the end, the ones that are almost made of sleep. Because there is a whole part of Enoch's book that is nothing but the gentle machinery of time. The angel Uriel, the light of God, takes Enoch and shows him patiently, in enormous and loving detail, The courses of the lights of heaven, how the sun rises and sets, through which gates, in which seasons, how the moon waxes and wanes, how the days lengthen and shorten across the year, the whole vast, slow, unfailing clockwork of time itself. To a modern reader, it can seem strange that anyone would fill pages and pages with the paths of the sun and the moon. But lie here in the dark and feel what it is really doing. It is a hymn to order. It is the book, after all its giants and its judgments, settling at last into the deepest comfort there is, the comfort of things that never fail. The sun comes out of its gate in the east every morning without exception and goes down into its gate in the west every evening forever. The moon keeps its slow appointed dance. The seasons turn in their unchanging round. Nothing here is ever late. Nothing is ever lost. The great lights keep perfect time, and have kept it since before there was anyone to watch, and will keep it long after we are gone. There is a reason this soothes us all the way down. Our own lives are full of disorder, of surprise and worry and things that do not come when they should. But above us the whole time the great order turns, indifferent and faultless and calm. The sun will rise tomorrow. It has never once failed to. The moon is exactly where it should be tonight. The seasons are coming in their order, as they always have. Enoch was shown all of it, gate by gate and season by season, and he wrote it down, and the writing is itself a kind of lullaby. The oldest lullaby there is, the reassurance that time is kept, that the lights are faithful, that the machinery of the days will not break tonight or ever. Let that keep you now. Above your dark and quiet room, the great order is turning exactly as it should. The stars are in their places. The moon is on its path, and in a few hours, faithful as it has been for all the ages of the world, the sun will come up out of its eastern gate and find you sleeping. You do not have to keep the time. It keeps itself. It always has. Let it turn above you and rest. There is a dream in the book. Enoch dreams it and tells it to his son, and it is one of the strangest and most beautiful things in all of it, because it tells the entire story of the world from the beginning to the end, and it tells it entirely in animals. Let it wash over you now like the dream it is. It does not need to be understood. It only needs to be drifted through. In the dream, Enoch sees the whole history of the world as a great procession of beasts, gentle and strange. At the beginning there comes a white bull out of the earth, the first man, and after him others, white cattle, moving through the young world. And among them in time come darker ones, and there is trouble, and the great flood that we know sweeps through even here in the dream, drowning the beasts of the ruined world. And a few are saved in a great vessel, and come out again onto the drying earth to begin once more. And the dream goes on gently through all the ages. A people appears, seen as a flock of sheep, small and vulnerable and beloved, and their whole long history unfolds as the story of that flock. Their wandering, their straying, their being led, their being lost, the wolves and the beasts that come against them in the night, the shepherds set over them who keep them faithfully or fail them. All of the tumult of history, all the empires and the wars and the sufferings of a whole people, told as the quiet, aching story of a flock of sheep moving through the dark, watched over, sometimes well and sometimes badly, always precious, always in danger, always somehow enduring. And at the end of the dream, when the long night of the flock's history is over, there comes a setting right. A great white one appears among them, and the beasts are transformed, and the flock is gathered safe at last into a new house. And the wild animals and the birds of prey that hunted them all through the long dark are judged and can hunt no more. And the whole procession of beasts, the whole history of the world, comes to rest in peace and safety in the light at home. You do not need to decode a single image of it. Let it be what it is, a dream of the whole world as a flock of gentle creatures, moving through danger and darkness across all the ages, watched over, endangered, enduring, and gathered safe at the last into a bright and peaceful fold. It is, in the end, the most comforting story there is, that the whole long, frightening history of the world is really the story of a beloved flock being brought through every peril slowly home. Let yourself be one of the flock tonight, watched over, precious, brought through the dark toward home. Rest and be gathered in. And there is one figure who moves through the deepest visions of the book quietly, and he is worth meeting before we go, because he is the book's answer to all its own darkness. The book calls him by several names: the elect one, the righteous one, and most hauntingly, the Son of Man. In the visions, Enoch is shown a figure standing beside the Ancient of Days, the Great One on the throne, a figure whose face is full of grace, like one of the holy angels, and yet who is somehow also like a son of man, like one of us. And Enoch is told a wonderful thing about him, that he was chosen and hidden before the world was made, that before the sun and the stars were created, before the foundations of the earth were laid, this one was already named, already chosen, already kept in the presence of the Most High, hidden, held in reserve, waiting for the whole long age of the world, for the day when he would at last be revealed. And what is he kept for? He is kept, the book says, for the setting right, for the day of judgment and comfort together. He is the one who will, at the end, raise up the fallen and vindicate the righteous who suffered in silence, and put down the mighty who did evil and were never called to account. He is the hidden hope at the center of the whole book, the answer to the crying of the earth we heard at the very beginning, the promise that all the unanswered grief of history is not, in fact, unanswered, only waiting, held in reserve with the hidden one until the appointed day. There is a deep and gentle comfort in that idea, whatever you believe as you lie here in the dark. The idea that goodness is not naive, not defeated, not finally overcome by all the giants and the fallen watchers and the long dark ages of the world, but hidden, kept, held in reserve from before the beginning, safe, waiting for its time. That the last word has already been chosen and named and set aside, and that it is a word of setting right, and that it is coming, however long the night. Let the hidden one keep his quiet vigil at the edge of your sleep. Everything sad the book promises is being held toward an unsaying. Everything broken is being kept toward amending. The good is not lost, it is only hidden like a light behind a door waiting for the morning of the world. Rest in that. Let the hidden hope hold you. It has been waiting since before the stars. It can wait and watch while you sleep. And now, at the last, the great journey ends the way all journeys end. The traveler comes home. Enoch, who was carried up through the crystal and the flame, who stood at the foot of the throne of fire, who walked the storehouses of the winds and saw the prison of the stars and the tree kept for the end of sorrow, Enoch comes back down out of the heavens, back into the world of men, back to his own house and his own people and his own son. For all that he was shown, he was not kept above. He was sent home with everything he had seen written faithfully in his hand to give it to those who would come after. And the book becomes, at the end, a very tender and very human thing. Because Enoch, home again, does what any of us would do with a great and terrible knowledge. He gives it to his child. He calls his son to him. Methuselah, the son's name is. You may know it, for it became a byword for great age, the longest-lived man in all the old records. And Enoch sits with his son and begins to tell him everything. Everything he saw, everything he was shown, everything that is written in the book we have been reading tonight. Imagine that quiet scene after all the fire and the vastness. An old man and his son in the lamplight of a house in the young world, and the old man saying, "Listen, I have seen things. Let me tell you so that it will not be lost. Let me tell you about the watchers and the giants and the flood that is coming. Let me tell you about the storehouses of heaven and the order of the stars, and the tree kept for the end of sorrow, and the hidden one who is coming to set everything right. Keep it, write it, give it to your children and tell them to give it to theirs, so that in the last days when everything is dark, someone will still have it and will read it and will not despair." That is what the Book of Enoch says it is, in the end, not a book for its own age at all, but a message sent forward deliberately across all the ages of the world. From a man who walked with God to the distant, unknown people of the far future. To people, the book says plainly, who would live in the last and darkest days. To people lying awake in the night, 1,000 lifetimes on, needing to be told that the darkness is not the end, that there is order above it and a hidden hope within it and a setting right that is coming. To people perhaps exactly like you, tonight, in the dark. That is the strangest and gentlest thought to end on, that this old buried book was addressed across all that distance to whoever would one day be lying quietly in the night, needing exactly this comfort. And here you are, and here it is. It reached you after all. It was kept and hidden and lost and found, and it made its way across 4,000 years of darkness all the way to you tonight. Let that be enough. Let it hold you. We have only the gentlest goodbye left to say. Rest. There is one more of Enoch's visions to drift through, and it is a strange and soothing one, because it takes the whole enormous history of the world, everything, from the very beginning to the very end, and folds it up small into a handful of quiet ages, like the folds of a blanket being drawn up over you. The book calls them weeks. Not weeks of days, weeks of the world, great ages, 10 of them, into which the entire span of history is gathered. Enoch is shown them, one after another, the whole story of everything laid out as a slow procession of 10 ages, and it is told so plainly, so calmly, that the vast and frightening sweep of time becomes something almost small enough to hold in your hand. In the first week, he is told, righteousness endured for a while in the beginning. In the second, great wickedness arose, and the first ending came, the flood we know, the washing away. And so it goes, age after age, week after week, each with its light and its darkness, its rising and its falling. An age of a chosen people, an age of a holy house built, an age of that house lost, an age of confusion and forgetting, when the book says the whole generation would grow blind and turn from wisdom and lose their way in the dark. And you may feel, hearing that, a small quiet shiver of recognition, because the book seems to be describing a time not unlike any troubled time, not unlike, perhaps, our own. But that is not where the weeks end. Because after the dark weeks, after the age of forgetting and confusion, the vision turns, as this book always turns, toward the light. There comes a week in which the righteous are chosen again and given wisdom, and the truth long lost is given back. And then the later weeks, the last ones, are all of setting right. The judgment of the fallen at last, the passing away of the old wicked world, and then in the final week, a new heaven and an endless age of goodness with no ending at all, week upon week upon week, forever in light. Let the whole of history fold up small and gentle for you, the way it folded for Enoch. All the ages, all the rising and the falling, all the light and the dark, drawn up and gathered into 10 quiet weeks, and every one of them held and ordered and moving, however slowly, however darkly, toward a last age of unending light. You do not have to carry the history of the world tonight. It is folded up. It is held. It is going in the end somewhere good. Let it be drawn up over you like a blanket, warm and folded and calm, and rest beneath the weeks of the world. Near its end, the book turns and speaks not to angels, not to kings, but to the small and the wronged and the weary. And it is, of everything in this vast, strange scripture, perhaps the most tender part, and the truest reason, maybe, that anyone ever loved it. So let it speak to you now gently as you lie here in the dark. The book knows, it seems, that most lives are hard. It speaks to those who have labored and gone unrewarded, to those who did right and saw the wrong prosper, to those who suffered quietly in obscurity and were never answered, never vindicated, never seen. To everyone who has ever lain awake in the night wondering whether goodness is simply foolishness, whether the patient and the gentle are only the ones who lose. And to all of them across all the ages, the book says, take heart, you were seen, it was written down, nothing was lost. Do not fear, it says, when you see the wicked flourish and grow strong. Do not envy them. Their strength is a passing thing, a shadow that will not stay. And do not despair when your own righteousness goes unrewarded in this life, when your patience and your kindness seem to come to nothing. For every good thing done in secret, the book insists, is remembered above. Every tear is counted. Every quiet act of mercy is written in the books of heaven and kept, and will be answered, if not now, then in the setting right that is coming, when the hidden one is revealed and the crooked is made straight, and the humble are lifted up at last. Whatever you believe about heaven and its books, feel what this ancient voice is reaching toward across 4,000 years to say to you, that your small goodnesses matter, that they are not wasted, not forgotten, not swallowed up in the indifferent dark, that the patient and the gentle and the quietly kind are not the fools of the world but its secret treasure, remembered where it counts. It is a thing worth hearing in the night, whoever you are, that nothing good you have ever done has truly been lost, that it was seen, that it was kept, that it mattered. Let that settle over you, warm and certain, as sleep comes very close now. You are seen, your kindnesses are counted. Nothing good is ever truly lost. However hard the road has been, however unrewarded the effort, however invisible you have felt, it was written down and it is kept and it mattered. Rest in that. Let the old book's oldest comfort hold you all the way down. You are seen and you are kept and you may rest. And so we have read it, the whole of the forbidden book, or enough of it to feel its shape. The fall of the watchers and the giants, and the sentence and the flood. Enoch carried up through the crystal and the flame, and shown the storehouses of the winds and the prison of the stars and the tree kept for the end of sorrow. The strange long history of how the book was loved and lost and buried and improbably found again. The great questions it leaves open that no one can answer. And the gentlest visions it saved for the end, the order of time, the flock brought safely home, the hidden one, the folded weeks of the world. The promise to everyone who ever suffered in silence. It is a strange inheritance, this book, older than almost anything, stranger than almost anything, taken out of the scripture that quoted it, lost for 1,000 years, kept alive in the mountains of one far country and carried back into the light against every likelihood. And through all of that, the burying and the silence and the improbable return, it never stopped being at its heart, a message deliberately sent forward across time, from the deep beginning of the world to its distant, unknown end. To people who would live, it said, in the last and hardest days. To people who would need more than anything to be told that the dark is not the end. And of all the strange things about the Book of Enoch, that is the strangest and the gentlest, that it seems somehow to have been waiting for you. Sealed in a desert jar, kept in a mountain church, buried and found and translated and carried across 4,000 years of darkness, down all the long weeks of the world, until at last, on an ordinary night, it reached one quiet room and one tired mind drifting towards sleep. Yours. It reached you. Everything that ancient scribe wrote down, everything he was carried up to see and sent home to record, made its impossible way across all that time and all that distance, and found you here tonight in the dark, and told you what it most wanted anyone to know, that there is order above the chaos, that there is a hidden hope within the dark, that nothing good is ever lost, and that the story, however long the night, is going somewhere good. You have read the forbidden book. There is nothing left to do with it now but the wisest thing of all, to bless the strangeness of it and to let it go and to rest. So let it go. The watchers and the giants and the fire and the flood, let them sink back down into the deep book they came from and close it gently and set it aside. You do not need to carry any of it into sleep. You needed only to open it once in the dark and wonder, and you have. That is enough. That was always enough. Thank you for spending this long night with me here at the edge of the unknown. If you drifted off somewhere in the storehouses of heaven or among the folded weeks of the world, then it worked, and I am glad, and you do not need to have heard the end. And if you are still here, still with me at the very last, then let these be the last words you hold. You are seen, you are kept. Nothing good you have ever done is lost, and the dark is not the end. There is another door on another shore waiting in the next Codex. Another buried thing, another forgotten world for another night. But not tonight. Tonight there is only this, the quiet room, the soft dark. The old book closed and set aside, and rest at last coming for you like a tide. Let it come. Let your breath go long and slow and easy, and let go. Sleep well. The dark is not the end. It never was. Before we leave the fallen watchers to their long dark judgment, let us do a strange and quiet thing that the book itself does. Let us say their names, because the Book of Enoch does not leave them faceless. It names them the leaders among the 200, the chiefs of tens, the ones who led the others down the mountain, and it sets beside each name the particular thing that he taught. It is almost a litany, and it has the slow, hypnotic weight of a list read aloud in the dark. So let it wash over you name by name, and do not trouble to hold any of them. Let them pass like faces in a dream. There was Semjaza, their leader, who first put the plan into words. There was Azazel, whom we have met, the teacher of blades and of the painting of faces, the most guilty of them all. And then the others, each with his secret to give away. One named Arakiel, the book says, taught the signs of the earth. One named Shamsiel taught the signs of the sun. One named Sariel taught the course of the moon, the waxing and the waning, the reading of the months. One named Kakabeel taught the constellations, the shapes and the names of the stars. One named Barakiel taught the reading of the heavens, the drawing of fate from the sky. One taught the signs of the lightnings, one the signs of the clouds, one the meaning of the passing of the stars. Each of them took some hidden thing from the storehouses of heaven and set it loose, forbidden, into the hands of men. There is something strangely tender in the naming, for all that these are the villains of the book. To give a thing a name is to grant it a kind of dignity, even in condemnation. The book will not let them be simply a faceless horde of the fallen. It insists that they were individuals, each with his own transgression, each answerable for his own gift. And in naming them, it does something else too. It fixes them forever in the record, so that their fall would never be entirely forgotten. so that even bound in the dark for 70 generations, they would at least be remembered as who they were. Let the names pass over you like a slow tide. Semjaza, Azazel, Arakel, Kakabil, Barakil, Sariel, old names from the deep beginning of the world of beings who fell for wanting too much, the teachers of the stars and the seasons and the signs, now bound beneath the hills waiting. You do not need to remember a single one. Let them sink back down into the dark of the old book, named and numbered and at last at rest. And let their long ago names be a kind of lullaby, the naming of the fallen, spoken softly over a sleeping world. Rest. On his journey through the far places, Enoch was shown gentle things, the storehouses of the winds, the tree kept for the end of sorrow, the quiet chambers of the dead. But he was shown a harder place too, and the book does not hide it. So let us look at it once briefly from a great and safe distance, and then leave it behind for good. He came, the book says, to a deep valley in a hard and burning country, and he asked his guide what it was for. And he was told, "This place is prepared. It is made ready against the last day for those who earned it for the fallen, and for all who did great and unrepented harm in the world and were never called to account. A place of fire, set apart, waiting, empty for now but prepared." It is the ancestor, this passage, of every image of a place of punishment that came after it, the burning valley, the fire kept for the wicked at the end of the world. And it is meant to frighten, a little, in the way the old books meant to frighten. To say that the accounts of the world are not left unbalanced forever, that cruelty is not, in the end, simply forgotten, that there is a reckoning kept in reserve for those who did great evil and walked away smiling. But notice, even here in the harshest place in the whole journey, what the book is careful to say. The valley is empty. It is prepared, but it is not yet filled. It is a warning, not a gloating, a place held ready for the last judgment, not a torture chamber busy in the present. The book is not interested in dwelling on suffering. It shows Enoch the valley for a moment, only long enough to say that justice is real and is coming, and then it moves him on, back toward the gentler wonders, the trees and the springs and the ordered stars. And that is what we will do too. We have looked at the burning valley from far off for a moment, and heard what it means that the scales of the world will one day be made even, that no cruelty is truly getting away, that there is a reckoning kept. It is, in its stern way, a kind of comfort for anyone who has ever watched the wicked prosper and wondered if anything at all was just. Something is kept, something is coming. The valley waits, but it does not wait for you, and it has nothing to do with your rest tonight. Turn from it the way Enoch turned from it, back toward the quiet country. Let it burn far away at the edge of the map and come back into the calm. Rest. There is a story near the very end of the Book of Enoch that is one of the strangest and most beautiful in all of it, and it is a perfect story to fall asleep inside of, because it is small and human and full of wonder. It is the story of a child who was born shining. Long after Enoch had been taken up, the book says, in the last generation before the flood, a child was born to Enoch's own line, to his grandson's family. And when the child was born, the whole house was afraid, because he was not like other newborns. His body, the book says, was white as snow and red as a rose, and his hair was white as wool, and his eyes, when he opened his eyes, the whole house was lit up as if the sun had come into the room. And the newborn opened his mouth and spoke and blessed the Lord of heaven. A child, glowing, speaking at the moment of his birth. The father was terrified. A man named Lamech, Enoch's great-grandson. He looked at this luminous, impossible child, and a dreadful thought came to him, the thought that any father in that haunted age would have had. This is not my son. This is a child of the Watchers. The angels have come again, and this shining thing is one of theirs. And in his fear he went to his own father, Methuselah, the old, long-lived one, Enoch's son, who had known Enoch himself, and he begged him, "Go and ask your father. Go to the ends of the earth, where Enoch dwells now among the angels, and ask him the truth about this child." And so old Methuselah made the long journey to the ends of the earth to find his father Enoch, who had been taken from the world so long ago, and he found him. And he told him about the shining child and the father's fear, and he asked, "What is this?" And Enoch, who had seen the fall of the Watchers and the coming of the flood and the whole shape of what was to be, Enoch reassured him. "Do not be afraid," he said. "This child is no child of the fallen. This child is true, and he is yours, and he is given for a purpose. For a great destruction is coming upon the earth, a flood of waters that will wash all the corruption away, and this child and his sons will be the ones who are saved. Through this shining child, the world will begin again." The child's name was Noah. Sit with the tenderness of that as sleep comes close. In the last dark days of the first world, with the giants abroad and the flood already gathering, a child is born who shines like the dawn, and he is not a thing to fear, but the very hope of the world, the one through whom everything will be carried across the drowning and begin again. The frightened father, the long journey to the ends of the earth, the old man's reassurance, the luminous newborn who is the seed of the new world. It is the book's last gift before the flood, the promise born as a shining child that even at the end of a world something is always being saved. Let the shining child light your own room now, soft and warm, the hope carried through the dark. Rest. The world begins again through the ones who are saved. It always has. Here is a thing that will surprise you, drifting in the dark, and it deepens the whole mystery. The Book of Enoch was not the only forbidden book about the fall of the Watchers. There was another, a companion to it, older cousin or younger sibling, we cannot quite say, and it too was hidden in the desert caves, and it too was very nearly lost forever. It is called the Book of Giants, and it tells the same great story, the Watchers, the descent, the monstrous children, but it tells it from an astonishing angle. It tells it in part from the point of view of the giants themselves. Imagine that. A book that goes inside the minds of the towering, doomed children of the Watchers and shows you their fear. Because in the Book of Giants, the giants begin to have dreams, terrible dreams, warning dreams, and they do not understand them, and they are afraid. They dream of a great tablet being washed clean, of a garden destroyed, of water rising to drown everything. They sense in their sleep the doom that is coming for them, the flood that will wash their whole violent world away, and they wake troubled, and they gather to try to read their own nightmares. The fragments that survive give even a few of the giants their names, and something like personalities, two brothers among them and their fear, and their fruitless searching for someone who can tell them what their dreams mean. In the end, they send a messenger, one of their own, on a long journey to find Enoch himself, the far-off scribe, the only one who might interpret the visions of doom. And Enoch, from his distant place, sends back the answer they most dread, that the dreams are true, that the end is coming, that there is no escape for the children of the fallen. It is a strange and haunting thing to be given the giants' own terror, their own doomed dreams, their own hopeless search for a way out. It turns the monsters just a little back into something like people, frightened, condemned, sensing the water rising in their sleep. And this book, the Book of Giants, had an afterlife stranger still. Long after it was lost to the west, it traveled east and was taken up by a whole other faith far away, translated into other tongues, carried across Asia, before at last it too faded, until in our own age its fragments were found again in the same desert caves that held the Book of Enoch. Two lost books about the same forbidden story, sealed side by side in the dark, waiting together across 2,000 years to be read again. You do not need to hold any of it. Let it be only this as you sink, that there was more than one forbidden book, that the story of the Watchers and the giants was told and treasured and hidden in more than one place by more than one people and nearly lost and found again. That whatever this old story was, it mattered enough that more than one hand wrote it down and more than one people hid it away to keep it safe. The desert kept them both, and both in the end came back to the light. Rest among the sleeping doomed dreamers in the deep company of lost and recovered books. Let us drift back one more time to that single strange line in the familiar scripture, the one the whole Book of Enoch seems to grow out of, like a great tree from a single buried seed. In the book of Genesis, just before the story of the flood, there are a few verses that most readers pass over quickly because they are so strange and so unexplained. They say that in those days the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took them as wives, and that their children were the mighty ones of old, the men of renown, and that there were giants in the earth in those days. And then the line simply ends and the story moves on to the flood, leaving the strangeness hanging there, unexplained in the middle of the sacred text. Who were the sons of God? The scripture, you know, does not say. It drops the phrase and walks on, and for thousands of years readers have stumbled over it and wondered. And the Book of Enoch is, in a sense, the great answer to that unanswered line, the long-lost explanation of what those few haunting verses meant. The sons of God were the Watchers, their wives were the daughters of men, their children were the giants. Enoch tells you at vast and vivid length the story that Genesis only whispers in a single sentence and then buries. And here is the echo that will follow you down into sleep. That idea of beings from above coming down to take mortal women and fathering a race of mighty half-divine children is not only in Genesis and not only in Enoch. It is everywhere. It is one of the most widespread stories the human race has ever told. The Greeks told it endlessly, gods descending from Olympus to lie with mortal women, and the heroes born of those unions, half divine, mighty, doomed. Culture after culture, across every continent, tells of the gods or the star people or the sky beings coming down and mingling their blood with ours, and of a race of heroes or giants or god kings born from it in the deep past. Why does the whole world tell this story? Perhaps it is only that every people wanted to believe their greatest ancestors were more than merely human, descended somehow from the sky, from the gods, from something higher. Perhaps it is only pride and longing dressed as history. That is likely most of the truth. But lie here in the dark and feel the strangeness of it anyway, that in Genesis and in Enoch and in Greece, and in 100 scattered traditions that never met, humanity keeps telling the same impossible thing. That once in the beginning the sky came down to the earth and mingled with it, and that we are, some of us, the distant children of that joining. It is almost certainly a dream. But it is a dream the whole species has dreamed, over and over in every age, and there is something in that shared dreaming that is worth wondering at quietly as you fall asleep. Rest, child of earth, and if the oldest dreams of your species are to be believed, perhaps faintly, far back, child of the sky as well. And there is one last echo, gentler than all the others, and it is the one to hold as sleep finally takes you, because it is not about the fallen or the giants or the doom. It is about survival. It is about the ones who came through. Every version of this old story, Enoch's and Genesis's and the Mesopotamian one older than both, and the scattered flood tales of the whole world, every single one of them ends the same way. Not with the drowning, with the survivors, with the few who are carried across the ruin of the old world into the new one. A boat, a remnant, a handful of the living and the seed of every living thing born up on the waters while everything else goes under, and set down at last on the far shore of the catastrophe to begin again. Think about what that means and how strange and beautiful it is that the whole world agrees on it. Humanity everywhere remembers a drowning, but humanity everywhere also insists that it did not end there, that some were saved. That the old corrupt world was washed away, yes, but that out of the water came a remnant, a beginning, a second chance. The story is never, anywhere, simply the end of the world. It is always the end of one world and the start of another, carried across the flood by the ones who were spared. And here is the thought that is almost too large to hold, and yet is soft enough to sleep on. If the story is true, even faintly, even only as a memory of some real ancient catastrophe survived, then you are one of them. You are the child of the saved. Everyone alive is. Whoever came through, whatever the real drowning was that the whole world half remembers, You are descended from the survivors, from the ones who were carried across, from the remnant on the far shore who began again. That is not mythology. That is simply true in the plainest sense. You exist because all the way back, through every disaster and every dark age and every drowning the world has ever known, your particular line survived. Every single one of your ancestors made it through their night. And here you are, the living proof of it, the far bright end of an unbroken chain of survivors reaching all the way back to the beginning. Let that be the last thing you carry down. You are the child of the saved. Everyone who ever lived and everyone lying awake tonight anywhere in the world is the child of the saved, the descendant of the ones who were carried through the flood, whatever the flood really was, into the morning of a new world. The old book knew it. The whole human race has always known it in its deepest dreams. The darkness has come again and again, and always, always some were carried through. And you are here, which means your line was never broken, which means tonight you can rest as deeply as anyone who was ever safely brought to shore. Rest, child of the saved, you made it, you always were going to. Rest. Come further into the ordered heavens with Enoch, and let the world grow very calm, because we are entering the gentlest part of the whole journey now, the part that is almost made of sleep itself. Uriel shows Enoch the winds and how they are kept, and it turns out the winds are not loose and wild at all. They come, the book says, through gates. 12 gates set in the 4 quarters of heaven, 3 in each quarter, 12 great portals through which every wind that has ever blown across the world comes out, each in its own season, each with its own work to do. From certain gates come the winds that bring the warmth, and from others the winds that bring the cold. From some come the rains and the dew and the fruitfulness of the earth, from others the frost and the drought and the hard weather. And each wind, the book is careful to say, comes out only through its proper gate, only at its proper time, only for its proper work, and then returns. Nothing is random, nothing is loose. The whole weather of the world, all its storms and its soft airs, its blessings and its harms, comes and goes through 12 appointed gates in perfect and unfailing order. Lie here and feel how deeply this soothes. Out in the real night, perhaps, a wind is moving against your window, and the old book invites you to imagine that it did not simply happen, that it came out of its gate in its season to do its work, and will go back when its work is done, part of a great and patient order that has been turning since before there was anyone to feel the wind at all. The breath of the world, kept and gated, and released by measure forever. Let the 12 gates stand quiet in the 4 corners of the sky, opening and closing in their slow appointed rhythm, sending out the winds and drawing them home. There is no storm tonight that is not accounted for. There is no wind that has lost its way. Everything that moves in the air above you moves in order through its gate in its time. Rest inside that ordered sky and let its calm be your calm. The winds are kept, so are you. And Uriel shows Enoch the sun, not the sun as we think of it, but the sun as the ancient dreamers imagined it, moving through its own gates across the sky. And the vision is so orderly, so patient, that it is like watching a slow clock in a warm room until your eyes fall shut. The sun, the book says, comes out each morning through a gate in the east and goes down each evening through a gate in the west, but not always the same gate. Across the turning of the year, the sun moves along a row of eastern gates, rising a little further along each day, gate by gate, as the days lengthen toward the height of summer, and then turning and coming back the other way, gate by gate, as the days shorten toward the depth of winter. 6 gates in the east and 6 in the west, and the sun walking slowly among them all year long, out one and back another, marking the seasons by which gate it chooses. It is, of course, an old and simple picture of a thing we now understand differently, but feel the peace in it anyway. The sun is not hurled across the sky at random. It walks in the old dream gate by gate, in a slow and perfect procession, lengthening the days and shortening them by measure, so exactly that a watcher could tell the very day of the year by nothing but which gate the sun rose from. The great light, keeping its slow appointed walk across the gates of heaven year upon year upon year, never once losing its way, never once coming late. And the same, the book says, for the moon, its own gates, its own slower and stranger walk, its waxing and its waning, all of it counted, all of it kept, the 2 great lights moving through their portals in a vast unhurried dance that has never faltered since the beginning of the world. Let the sun walk its gates for you now, slow and golden out of the east and into the west, marking the long, calm turning of the year. In a few hours it will come, faithful as it has been through every age, out of its proper gate for this season of the world, and climb and cross and find you deep in sleep. You do not have to wait for it. You do not have to watch it. It knows its gates. It has always known them. Let it walk and rest. And then the stars, for Enoch is shown the stars too, and how they, the countless host of them, are kept and named and led. The book imagines the stars as a great host, an army, an uncountable multitude of lights, and it says a beautiful thing about them, that they are led. That the host of heaven does not simply drift, but is guided, each troop of stars in its season, brought out and led across the sky and brought back, so that they rise and set exactly when they should, so that the constellations wheel overhead in their unchanging order, so that a fisherman or a shepherd on the young earth could steer by them, or count the months by them and never be led astray. The stars that fell, the 7 we saw long ago, blazing in their prison in the void, those were the ones that broke this order, that would not be led, that left their appointed course. But they are the exception, the rare and dreadful exception. The vast host of the stars, the countless faithful multitude, keep their order perfectly, night after night after night, wheeling over the sleeping world in their great, slow, silent procession, exactly as they have since the first night there ever was. Think of that as you lie here. Above the roof over your head, above the clouds, the whole host of heaven is turning, thousands upon thousands of faithful lights, each in its place, each led in its course, wheeling in perfect and silent order over the whole dark side of the earth, over every sleeping soul in every land. The same stars Enoch was shown, the same stars the shepherds steered by, the same stars that have kept their order through every war and every flood and every fallen empire, and will keep it long after all of it is forgotten. Faithful, countless, kept. Let the great host wheel over you now, silent and slow and sure. You are lying beneath the most faithful thing there is, the turning stars that have never once in all the ages of the world failed to keep their course. There is nothing steadier to sleep beneath. Let them turn. Let them keep their watch and their order. And you, held beneath the whole faithful host of heaven, let go and rest. There is one more wonder at the ends of the earth to drift through before we leave the journey, and it is made of the 2 oldest things there are, water and fire, held together in a single strange and peaceful vision. Enoch is shown at the far edges of the world, the great waters, the deep from which all the rivers of the earth are fed, the vast hidden reservoirs of the world's water, kept below and beyond, released through their own channels to fill the springs and the streams of the ordinary lands. He sees the source of the rivers. He sees where the waters gather and from where they are sent out, the whole hidden plumbing of the living world, tended and measured like everything else. And he sees, too, rivers of fire, streams of flame at the edges of things, flowing toward the great sea in the west, the fiery counterpart of the waters, part of the same vast ordered machinery. Fire and water, the destroyer and the giver, both kept, both channeled, both flowing in their appointed courses at the far edges of the world, neither one loose, neither one lost. There is a deep old peace in this pairing, in seeing the fire and the water not at war but both simply kept, each in its channel, each doing its work, each part of the one great order. The fire that could burn the world flowing quietly in its own bed toward its own sea. The water that could drown the world and once did, and will not again, gathered and measured and sent out gently, as springs, as dew, as the small kind streams that give the earth its life. The most terrible forces there are, tamed into channels, tended, turned to their quiet work, and that perhaps is the deepest comfort the whole journey has to give. Not that there is no fire and no flood, no danger anywhere, the book never pretends that, but that even the fire and the flood are held. Even the forces that could unmake everything are kept and channeled and turned in the end toward the giving of life. The river of fire flows on toward its sea. The waters of life flow out to feed the world. And all of it is kept. Let that hold you now all the way down. You have traveled with Enoch through the whole ordered heaven, the storehouses, the gates of the winds, the paths of the sun, the host of the stars, the rivers of fire and the waters of life. And everywhere the same quiet word, the word that is the true lullaby of this whole strange book. Kept. Everything is kept. Nothing is loose. Nothing is lost, not the winds, not the stars, not the fire, not the waters, not the dead in their chambers, not the good you have done, not the hope held in reserve, not you, especially not you. You are kept tonight as surely as the stars in their courses. Rest in the keeping. Let go, sleep. And here is a thought to widen the whole mystery gently before we leave the history behind. The Book of Enoch was not alone. It was not a single strange orphan cast out by itself. It was one of many, because the truth, quiet and a little astonishing, is that the faith of the ancient world had a far larger library than the one that came down to us. In those early centuries, before the boundaries were drawn and the lists were fixed, there were many, many more sacred books in circulation than the ones your Bible finally kept. Whole scriptures, treasured by real communities, read and copied and believed, and then one by one, like Enoch, set outside the walls and let fall into the dark. There was a book called Jubilees, a companion to Enoch, retelling the beginnings of the world week by week and year by year. And it too honored the watchers and the giants, and it too was loved, and it too fell mostly out of the Western memory and survived, like Enoch, chiefly in the keeping of the Ethiopian church. There were gospels that did not make the final four. There were letters and revelations and testaments, dozens of them, apocalypses and wisdom books and secret teachings. A whole shadow library standing just behind the familiar scriptures, most of it now known only by its titles, or by fragments, or not at all. Imagine that lost library, In the dark of the deep past shelf upon shelf of sacred books that the world once held holy and then let go. Some were set aside for good reasons, no doubt doubtful or strange or late or simply too many. But all of them once were somebody's scripture. All of them were copied by candlelight by someone who believed. And nearly all of them are gone now, or nearly gone, faded out of the world as quietly as the Book of Enoch faded, most without the improbable good fortune of being found again in a desert cave or kept alive in a far mountain church. There is a strange and gentle melancholy in that, and it is a fine thing to rest on. Not everything that was loved was kept. Not every sacred book survived. The world we inherited is only the part that came through, the surviving remnant of a much larger and stranger library, most of which drowned like the sunken city beneath the patient tide of time. And the Book of Enoch is precious partly because it is one of the very few that came back, one lost book, out of a whole lost library, carried improbably across the dark and set again in your hands. Hold it gently as the rare and recovered thing it is, and rest among the shelves of the great lost library where so many holy and forgotten books lie sleeping in the dark. Let us wonder once more gently about ourselves, about this strange thing we do over and over all through our history, that the whole story of the Book of Enoch is really an example of. We take our most precious knowledge and we seal it away. And then later we cannot rest until we open it again. It runs all through us, this double impulse. We hide things to keep them safe, bury the sacred books in the jars, wall up the tombs and code the secrets, and trust the deepest teachings only to the initiated. And then always another hand comes later and undoes it, digs up the jar, opens the tomb, breaks the code, carries the sealed book back into the light. We are the creatures who cannot leave our own hidden things hidden. We seal and we unseal endlessly, generation after generation, as if we could neither bear to lose our treasures nor bear to leave them locked away. And perhaps that is exactly right. Perhaps that is how anything precious survives at all, by being hidden when the times are dark and found again when the light returns. The Book of Enoch was sealed in the desert jars precisely because someone feared it would be destroyed, and it survived precisely because it was hidden, and it returned to us precisely because we are the kind of creature that goes looking. The hiding and the finding are not opposites. They are two halves of the same long act of keeping. The way a thing is carried, sealed and then opened across the centuries from hand to hand, down all the dark ages, to reach at last the ones who need it. You are tonight on the far end of one of those long chains. Someone 4,000 years ago wanted this knowledge kept. Someone sealed it in a jar. Someone in a mountain church copied it faithfully through the centuries of silence. Someone carried it back across the world, and now it has reached you unsealed, open, here in the dark, the end point of a vast, patient relay of hiding and finding that you never asked to be part of and yet are. What was sealed has been opened all the way to you. There is a deep rightness in being the one it finally reaches. You do not have to do anything with it. You do not have to keep it, or pass it on, or seal it away again. You have only to receive it to be, for one night, the one the long relay was running toward. What was hidden has been shown to you. That is enough. That is a kind of gift and a kind of trust, and you can carry it softly down into sleep. Rest at the open end of the long chain, holding the thing that was kept for you. And let us end our wondering where the whole book began, with the watchers, but not the fallen ones. Tonight, at the last, let us think of the faithful ones, the ones who kept their place, and let them keep watch over your sleep. For the whole tragedy of the book is that the watchers were made to watch, and some of them could not bear only to watch and fell. But most did not fall. The vast host of heaven kept their vigil. The 4 great archangels never came down. And behind the 200 who broke the law there stood a far greater multitude who did not, who went on doing faithfully forever the one thing they were made for, watching over the sleeping world, keeping their patient guard through all the long nights of history, wanting nothing, taking nothing, only watching and keeping and guarding. That is the image to carry down into the dark now, not the fall, but the faithful watch. The idea as old as the human heart, that the world is not left alone in the night. That above the dark roofs of every sleeping city, above the fields and the seas and the mountains, above every soul that has ever lain down afraid, there is a watch being kept. A patient, wakeful, faithful presence, guarding the sleep of a world that mostly never knows it is being guarded. You do not have to believe in angels to let this hold you. It is a feeling older than any doctrine, and truer in its way than any argument, the feeling that you are watched over. That you can lay down your own watch now and close your own eyes and let go of your own guard, because something else is keeping watch tonight and will keep it faithfully until the morning. The whole exhausting effort of staying alert, of being on guard, of holding yourself ready against the dark, you can set it down. The watch is covered. It has always been covered. You were never the one who had to keep it. So let the faithful watchers keep their vigil over you now. Whatever you believe them to be, the turning stars, the ordered heavens, the patient guard of the old dream, the simple deep truth that the world goes on holding you while you sleep. You have done enough watching in your life over so many things. Tonight it is not your watch. Tonight you are the one being watched over. Close your eyes. Set down the guard. The faithful ones are keeping their vigil above the sleeping world, and you are part of that world, and you are kept, and you are safe, and you may at last completely rest.